How do we form our habits? And what impact do they have on our health? Can our daily habits alter our physiology in a way that affects our behavior, character, and well-being? And to what extent do they affect our overall wellness? There is a saying that goes, watch your thoughts, for they become your actions, and your actions become your habits. Your habits become your character and ultimately determine your fate. Habits are acquired behavioral patterns, learned through repetition. When a habit develops, neurons in the brain create an automatic subconscious process that becomes difficult to break. Therefore, the most important step in creating healthy habits is awareness. Being aware of the motivations behind these recurrent actions. Managing our habits and behavior is a crucial element in managing wellness. Among such habits are the way we sit, the way we stand, and the way we walk. It is well known that our posture affects our musculoskeletal system. But is it possible that it could affect the physiology of the rest of our body? In several universities, including Harvard, recent studies reveal that strong, effective leaders, both men and women, not only share a common way of thinking, but also share similar levels of specific hormones in their blood. Such leaders tend to have higher levels of testosterone, which gives them a higher sense of confidence, and lower levels of cortisol, which lowers their stress and anxiety, improving their ability to handle pressure. This means that if you are able to achieve these levels of hormones in your blood, you will be physiologically prepared to be more confident and assertive, while at the same time, you will be more relaxed and less pressured. Amy Cuddy, a Harvard researcher and the author of a book titled Presence, shared her study that demonstrated the impact of body posture on testosterone and cortisol. 42 students were split into two groups. The researchers took samples of saliva from each participant to measure their base levels of cortisol and testosterone. From there, subjects in the first group were asked to assume power postures, a sitting position that conveyed an attitude of confidence. They were asked to raise their heads, sit straight with balance, openness, and relaxation. The second group were instructed to assume a posture that conveyed weakness, defeat, and loss of control. This included standing with a bent back or sitting with a hunch, all of which are postures of reclusion and stress. After 2 minutes, another sample of saliva was taken from each participant to evaluate any possible changes in their levels of cortisol and testosterone. When the research team compared the results between the two groups, they were astonished at the extent to which posture affects the levels of both hormones. In the first group, the one with the positive body posture, the level of testosterone, the confidence hormone, increased by 20%. and the level of cortisol, the stress hormone, decreased by 25%. On the other hand, in the second group, the level of testosterone dropped by 10% and the level of cortisol rose by 15%. This means that in just 2 minutes, the first group had become physiologically more prepared to tolerate pressure and make effective decisions. Improving our body language affects the release of these hormones with astonishing speed and has profound effect on our overall wellness. For me, an example of the power of body language can be found in the life of the Prophet, peace be upon him. His way of life, including his natural posture and way of walking, were a source of admiration from his companions. They described that when he walked with power, energy, and determination. Our daily routines can be transformed into healthy habits through careful attention and awareness. In our fast-paced lives, we are so rushed that we have forgotten how to breathe properly. Most people breathe by moving the chest instead of their abdomen and diaphragm. The value of proper breathing is evident in the increased energy of children and athletes who naturally breathe this way. Through awareness, training, and practice, we can manage our breathing by programming our brains and training our abdominal muscles. Repeating these motions until the correct way of breathing becomes a spontaneous, healthy habit again. Another factor that impacts our wellness is the way we manage our habit of sleep. We spend 1/3 of our lives asleep, yet most of us know little about its effect on our health and wellness. Many studies around the world confirm that sleep deprivation can result in organ dysfunction and lead to a number of illnesses. Max Planck Institute in Germany has proven that sleep deprivation leads to weak memory and poor learning ability. When we learn, information is stored for a short period of time in a deep part of the brain known as the hippocampus. After a few days, it is transported to the brain cortex during deep sleep, where the cortex enters a state of heightened activation and the stored information is sealed into our long-term memory. A study published in the highly acclaimed journal Annals of Internal Medicine in October 2012 affirmed that a normal individual sleeping only 4 hours per night instead of 8 hours can experience radical effects in as few as 4 days. This sleep deprivation leads to significant physiological changes and the development of insulin resistance. This is comparable to aging almost 20 years or becoming temporarily diabetic. Survey studies indicate that the total number of sleeping hours most people need, on average, falls between 7 and 8 hours daily, while children and adolescents require longer periods that could reach up to 10 hours. To achieve a quiet and healthy sleep, a variety of factors must be considered. To begin with, sleeping and waking times must be regulated, as well as the time for work, activity, and exercise during the day. One should also avoid stimulants and heavy meals at least 5 hours prior to sleeping. In a recent study published by Matthew Walker in the journal Nature Communication, it was shown that a person who sleeps for 8 hours at night tends to choose healthier food in the morning, while if the same person had insufficient sleep, he would trend towards more high-calorie foods. Furthermore, scientists at the American National Sleep Foundation state that a short 30-minute nap at midday can counteract tiredness and revitalize the body and mind. in a study conducted by NASA on astronauts, it was discovered that a 40-minute nap leads to more than a 34% improvement in performance and achieves 100% wakefulness and alertness. And based on a number of studies, many countries have passed laws which ensure the right of every person to nap. Some, such as China, went as far as considering it a constitutional right. Some international corporations have allocated special napping rooms for their employees at work. However, it is not only the total number of hours slept at night that matters, but also when we wake up. If we wake up during the phase of deep sleep, we will feel tired, irritable, and unable to concentrate. One of the most significant functions of deep sleep is to erase all negativity remaining in the mind from the previous day. All bad habits can lead to addiction, a signature of this age. Addiction is a behavioral disturbance that is characterized by compulsive engagement in a given activity despite harmful consequences. When the word addiction is mentioned, most people think of substance abuse, the use of narcotics, alcohol, or smoking. However, during the last 2 decades, we have become exposed to a new form of addiction, behavioral addiction. Behavioral addiction is difficult to diagnose because it generally involves socially acceptable practices. Though many of these behaviors are fine if practiced in moderation, they affect the brain the exact same way as an addictive substance. As a result, the World Health Organization has expanded the definition of the word addiction to include all forms of dependence. This includes sexual addiction, gambling, addiction to television, the internet, video games, and shopping, to name a few. The brain perceives every kind of pleasure, delight, and desire in the same way by releasing a hormone called dopamine. With the help of 2 adjacent parts in the brain, the hippocampus and the amygdala, the experience is stored both as a memory as well as an emotion, creating an addictive desire to repeat that particular action. All forms of addiction represent a means of escaping reality and a way for people to change their state of mind. Addiction is an expression of an inner void. People overindulge in pleasure to compensate for a lack of true happiness. In order to succeed in managing our wellness, we must constantly be alert and aware of any bad habits that might slip into our lives, where they have an accumulative effect, like water grinding away at a stone. They eat away at us over time, not through force, but through sheer persistence.